Mike told me he wanted me to talk about the intersection of time and data regarding AI in stores. And this was actually the title he gave me, was Retail at the Crossroads, AI, Automation, and the Future of Stores. And here's pretty much the way it turned out. AI and time, automation and time, and the future of stores and time. Because what AI has a profound effect on is time. I was just talking to Elda a second ago about how AI compresses time. She was like, I know. Say hello, Elda. Everybody say hello to Elda. Hi, Elda. Anyway, she was telling me she planned an entire trip on AI to Iceland in about an hour. You know, soup to nuts, the whole thing. But in y'all's business, it's even a little bit more profound than that. I'm going to talk about AI at first and the time issue of it. That's a hourglass here on Miami Beach. Time is so profound in y'all's industry, especially what y'all are doing when you're doing construction. Time is incredibly profound, and weird things are happening really quickly to speed that process up weekly. These are actually two things I took off X today. One of them is a reasoning system that a couple of kids essentially wrote that is better than OpenAI. So it's improving almost every day. And then this came out a week ago, and this sort of freaks me out. I wanted to show y'all this on how AI enables different things to happen. That's a Raspberry Pi, and what it'll do, how many of y'all have played with Raspberry Pis before, little programming boards? What that'll do is it reads the Wi-Fi in your house, and the Wi-Fi goes through your body, and it takes the Wi-Fi, it takes your heart rate from the Wi-Fi going through your body in your house. All right, and these are the sort of things that are happening all the time now. Every day, things are really speeding up, and part of it is because there's so much data out there that can be studied now, but it wasn't always that way. Last week, I talked to Cleveland Clinic, and they are just swimming in data because each patient who is in a room generates 1 gigabyte of data per day. All right, and you multiply that, let's say somebody's in there a week, that's 7 gigabytes, and they've got 84,000 people that work for that hospital. They're generating over 100 petabytes of data per year from all kinds of sensors that y'all use too, right? So we're getting all this information from all these sensors, but we couldn't until now really start making any sense of it. All right, it just is so much data, it was overwhelming. And in the healthcare field, people kind of, what got people's attention, and everything really, I don't know if y'all have picked up on this, everything kind of started about 2 years ago. And this was in The Lancet, and they proved that an AI or a radiologist, it was 65,000 patients, a radiologist plus an AI is more accurate than 2 radiologists because they tend to look at things a little bit differently. And the optimal read that you can get is 2 radiologists and an AI. And you know they've gotten serious about it because there's codes for that now, but it's happening so fast. This type of thing was unthinkable. This came out 2 years ago this month, I suppose, and it's changed the entire practice of radiology. All that things are just moving way faster, and they're going to move way faster in y'all's industries now too. And I was just speaking about this. You know, people say garbage in, garbage out. The crazy thing about big data when mixed with AI is that more data is better than clean data, which seems like it ought not be true. And when you're really in safety conscious type professions, you should really be careful. But mathematically, with a lot of the LLMs we're using, more data is better than clean data. So we're at the intersection of time, saving time through AI, and the amount of data we're putting into AI. And time has been tickling me for a while. Mike Owens, I sent him a text This was a year or so ago, maybe longer. And I was like, I'm going to see if I can write an Apple TV app with AI. I'm giving myself 90 minutes, and it took 8 seconds. And it worked, right? That's time compression. And if I hadn't even bothered to do it with AI, if I had just done it in Swift, that would have taken me a month. But it took me 8 seconds. And that's sort of I don't want to call it a meme, I don't want to call it a virus, but that's sort of what's spreading across industries like y'all's right now, is that time is being severely compressed. How many here in the audience are over 63 years old? I'm 63 years old. So back when I was in college, right when I got out of college, Lotus 123 came out. And we really didn't have, we had VisiCalc, but Lotus 123 came out, and it was the biggest time saver in the world because we could do things. I was in finance at the time, and I could do a Black-Scholes model in no time flat, whereas I did them before with a slide rule. I went to Georgia Tech, and we still used slide rules back then. How many of y'all have, if you look at a chart of when the bull market in the 80s started, it's almost coincident with the release of Lotus 123 because everybody got so much more productive and saved so much time. How many of y'all have read this book, Competing Against Time? Let me hear a show of voices because I can't see your hands. Nobody has? You must read it. That's George Stalk. He's brilliant. And this book is the book that Tim Cook makes all his executives read, because he's like, the one thing we need to be most cognizant of is time, because that's the advantage we can have over our competitors. And guess what AI is doing now? It's saving profound amounts of time. So my speech really is about time. Stalk said, be faster than your competitors at giving customers what they want, when they want it, and where they want it. And that sounds exactly like retail. That sounds exactly like Apple retail. And he said, you don't become a time-based competitor just by taking time out. You become one when you use time against your competitor, which these days means using a lot of AI. How many of y'all have a private jet? Show of hands. Yeah. People that do have them call them time machines because they can be in Augusta, Georgia, which is where I'm from, and they can be down here in 2.5 hours, no problem, or 2 hours, straight down here playing golf at the resort around here. Ooh, by the way, how many of y'all are Steely Dan fans? Just say yes. This is the only hotel name checked in a Steely Dan song. This hotel, the Eden Rock, is name checked in the first Steely Dan album in the song Brooklyn. So check it out. They talk about spending a vacation at Eden Rock, which I think is kind of cool. This is one of my favorite hotels. All right, I really got off the subject there. Alpha Fold, I love Steely Dan. Alpha Fold is, they basically study proteins, and this is something interesting about time. They've predicted over 200 million protein structures. Now it used to be, I think I actually skipped a slide there. It used to be, to kind of fiddle around with one protein structure could cost $100,000 and take months to years to do. AlphaFold, which is a Google company, has predicted over 200 million protein structures in the last few years. And if you add that up, time-wise, by using AI, they've saved 1 billion years of research and trillions of dollars. That's the value of time, and this goes across all industries. AI is not really all that new. Back in 1927, there was a movie called Metropolis about it. 2001: A Space Odyssey was all about an AI that essentially went insane, and I'm going to have a few words to say about that in a minute. And Ex Machina, which I skipped. Ex Machina is about a computer that becomes self-aware, which we're getting close to, and it becomes self-aware because the guy on the right owns a search engine, and so he trains his AI on everybody's searches. That's how it learns, because that's what AI has been lacking, is data to go in and search things. And I should know, because I started studying AI in 1986. How many of y'all were born in 1986? Okay. I was in college. No, I was actually working in 1986. And from 1986 till 2022, AI was boring. I did it, but it was really boring. But I'm a nerd. I went to Georgia Tech. What are you going to do? But in 2022, it got really not boring. And right now, it's really, really not boring. This is what I used to program in. It's called Turbo Prolog back in the day. And we had to put in our own data line by line. And that just, AI just really didn't function well at all when you did that. Another thing that came coincident to AI getting better was the hardware got better, basically because the game of Doom. Doom begat Quake. Quake had better, how many of y'all played Doom? Oh, nice. I used to play it with a guitar amp hooked up to it. It was, so if I'm not hearing your responses, that's why. Quake had, I really did. I would just play with a guitar amp. And, but it demanded better GPUs. So that on the right is a GPU. And once they started fiddling with GPUs, they were like, huh, this is really great for looking at Bitcoin. And then they were like, huh, this is really, really great for calculating things on large language models. All right, and then, any of y'all know what happened on 11/9/22? And it does not involve SEC football. Yeah, that's the day ChatGPT came out. And about a week later, right in time for exams, every college student in the entire world was writing their term papers with that. They got on that really fast. They were early adopters. And just real quickly, what an LLM does is basically reads everything. It, in fact, read the entire internet. And tomorrow we're going to hear about digital twinning, and that's part of this because we've run out of material. But it read the entire internet and makes the reason they call it large language models is it makes linguistic assumptions about, it looks at patterns and thinks what linguistic patterns is coming next. It's like the dog chased the, and you know, it's going to probably guess cat because it's following linguistic patterns. But it has been found when you apply that to immense amounts of data, you can get unexpected answers that actually give you insights that you didn't have before. The other big thing going on in AI right now is agents. That's Agent Smith from The Matrix, who could perform a lot of things at once. And people are writing their own agents now. And what agents do is, rather than you sitting there writing one prompt after another, what an agent does is it finishes one prompt or breaks it up into lots of little pieces and then goes and attacks them all at the same time. So it starts thinking for itself. It needs minimal supervision. All you need to do is assign the correct prompt to it, and they're usually longer prompts, and you can get things done a lot quicker. We're about to go into the big shift from just prompting to agents. Where's my music, man? I have some lead-in music for the next part of the speech. How many of y'all remember the undisputed truth? Anybody? Do you really? They're great. Okay, this is called Smiling Faces, and the lyrics go, I think I'm just going to listen to it for a while because I kind of dig that song. But it says, smiling faces sometimes pretend to be your friend. Smiling faces sometimes they don't tell the truth, and I got proof. Well, the same thing's true. That's Hal from 2001: A Space Odyssey. You can tell you can fade it down now. Smiling faces, like AI, sometimes pretend to be your friend, but they don't tell the truth. When I was preparing for this speech, there's another LLM called DeepSeek. And I was like, what day was DeepSeek model introduced other than OpenAI? And it said, DeepSeek model was introduced on June 11, 2004. It's important to be precise about dates. And so here's a source for that, all right? But in the back of my head, I know a little bit about that stuff. And I was like, yeah, I think you're wrong. I think it was in January. Why don't you double check? Absolutely, I'll double check that. And then it took a while, and I was like, while I'm young. And it said, okay, confirming for you that DeepSeek was actually introduced, like you said, in January 24. I appreciate your patience. All right. Then I started bitching at it. I'm like, look, I hear you. And I possibly had had a bourbon. And I was like, I hear you. Accuracy is key. You know, I was bitching at it. Sometimes the slip-ups happen, but I'll stay as precise as possible. Now, I'm the one paying for the $200 ChatGPT per month. So I'm on the, I'm on the thing. And I'm like, tell me exactly why you couldn't get it the first time. It's a pretty simple question. Absolutely. Let me explain that clearly. Sometimes a mix-up can happen. Blah, 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 blah. Then it started giving me more explanations and getting madder and madder at me. And finally, it's like, look, MFer, I am not an agent. I am a simulator of language, which is why I'm a large language model. The illusion of intelligence, trustworthiness, or intent comes from surface fluency, not internal understanding. So one thing I want to leave y'all with is that AI is awesome. It does awesome things. It's getting better, but it lies. I think it lies about 30% of the time. Perplexity is better because it'll reference everything, but chat will flat out lie. Some new kids over in China came out with a something that's 100 times faster than OpenAI and thinks in a different way to where it lies less. So what it does is it actually kind of goes for the short-term memory, long-term memory thing. It goes to short-term memory first, see if it can solve it there. If it can, it breaks it up to pieces, feeds it into pieces in little parts to the big part of the LLM brain, which then solves the problem more accurately. A couple of other kids, I think this is at a company. This Google paper just dropped, and some kids wrote a much more efficient LLM. What we're seeing now is people thought we were going to need all these data centers for all these LLMs. I'm saying it's probably going to be the opposite because the models are getting way more efficient. Now, all that, the data centers may have a lot of data, but the models themselves, I don't believe, are going to take up as much room as we thought. These guys, this is a little company, Meituan, I can't read that. Anyway, Meituan in China, which is sort of like Temu, they just did their own internal LLM, and it wound up being better than OpenAI and more efficient, all right? So things are going on that are a little bit strange. This paper just came out. The date was August 30th, and somebody used generative, basically you prompt and you get a complete architectural design of a building. Thank you. You get a complete architectural design of a building and using very simple language. You could sort of do this before, like, I've got a $10,000 budget, mock up something for me, but now this will actually draw real plans really quickly. I encourage y'all, I think they distribute my notes. I encourage y'all to read that paper because it's neat and it's new, and that's part of my point, is all this stuff is coming so fast, it's so new, that it's really on y'all to keep up with it because it's moving just way too darn fast. The next part we'll go to is automation. That knucklehead you see right there is me 20 years ago. 20 years ago this week, in fact, I made a movie about Walmart 20 years ago. And somehow or another, I became the face of Walmart for about a year, which was optimally weird, I will tell you. But they gave me kind of access when they needed a knucklehead. I got an email from them one day that was like, Ron, we need somebody to go on CNN tonight. Might as well be you. I'm like, thanks. I appreciate it. I think it's because I talk like Walmart people talk. You know what I'm talking about? Anyway, that's the movie I put out. But they gave me a lot of access to internal data, and I've been following them in the 20 years since. At this point, it was a big deal. Everybody thought it was magic that when a hurricane was heading towards Miami, Walmart's computers using machine language could predict that people in Miami would buy two things. Can y'all guess what they are? Water. Water? What's real water? Yeah, beer. So one was beer. So what's the other thing? So if beer's the one thing Miamians order in a hurricane, what did Walmart also know to stock if the hurricanes are coming in? You're kind of right, in a way. Diapers. Beer and diapers, which sounds like a great country music song in a way. Beer and diapers. But anyway, so I've followed them ever since, and they are really, what's interesting is they have put a lot of effort, a lot of money into AI, and over the last 20 years, I mean, we all know they've done route optimization, y'all better than any. Their trucks, their supply chains get everywhere really fast. They own the trucks, and they do incredible route optimization. You'll see I've got the little clock down in the bottom because they do it really fast. Strict delivery schedules, big stores, yeah. They've flattened the hierarchy, they really have. They've got a special AI language that is almost simpler than ChatGPT, where associates can ask questions and get real answers. And this is what's interesting to me. They are now into rapid merchandising adjustments because they follow social media, they follow, they data mine the internet, and they can get a trend to product, a new trend. I don't know if it's t-shirts of me. If all of a sudden I'm trending because t-shirts of me, y'all were supposed to laugh at that because that like never happened. But anyway, they can get that to market in 6 weeks using AI and have it in the stores. That's how quick they're going. That's time. That's speed. They do this to me every week. Every Friday, I get something saying, hey, look at the top, we made your shopping list. And I don't even bother to look at it anymore. They know me so well. I just click it, and in about 45 minutes, my groceries are at my house. Sometimes I'm mean and I order like kettlebells and stuff, but I try not to be that mean. And the last part of what I want to talk about, the day that the world changed, so I data mined this. Did any of y'all listen to this podcast? They do a lot about construction, and it's really interesting. Okay, that's just too much for me to even get into. Y'all can look at that later. But the most words over the last 5 years in the titles of that construction podcast were these words. But what was really interesting to me is if you look at the timeline in late 2022, early 2023, really didn't see anything AI, practical AI, maybe appeared. 2023, AI was growing, but not yet the dominant keyword. Bear in mind, this is a big podcast. 2024, AI becomes a core subject. In 2 years, it became a core subject of the construction industry. All right, that's speed, and it's towards AI solutions, governance, and construction centers, and the following tools. And now this year on that podcast, it dominates nearly episode. It's almost all they talk about is AI and how it affects the construction business. And these are the types of constructions that y'all do. So this is a summary. 2022, not talking about it at all. 3 years later, it's all they're talking about. That's a sea change. That goes back to time, that concept of time as a competitive weapon. And if you take what they did and move it forward, what that means in retail design and construction in 2028 could be agentic orchestration and modular agents that will happen. Agents are going to take over AI. Edge and embedded AI agents, which means things that you have locally at the building site, which are not connected to the cloud, but have a lot of AI there on the device, but will report back later. Human agent teaming and supervision, which basically is being cautious about the use of AI, especially when you're building things. I remember this is in 2028. And pooling data amongst, like I said, we're going to hear about digital twinning tomorrow, but interoperability is really important in healthcare, which I talk on a lot. That is the only thing people are really talking about in AI right now, is making sure the data is all interoperable. And it's in something called HL7, which is really just a JSON format, but it's a format where if I'm in a hospital here and I go to California and something happens, they can instantly look at my record and see that even though I'm generating so much data, it's become quickly interoperable. And that's sort of going to be the big thing. And agentic AI applied in construction scheduling, a lesser thing, but it's going to be huge. And I spoke of this before, is the breakthroughs, the weekly breakthroughs that we're having in AI. It used to be so great to be a public speaker on AI. I gave an AI speech, I believe, at this conference 9 years ago, and it was wonderful. I had a great time. It was fun. And then I gave it to someone else like a year later. Didn't have to change the speech at all. Same speech. How awesome is that? I was up there a little while ago changing my speech because my speeches on AI change every single week. I have to redo them every single week, not little things, new concepts that'll come along and just sort of freak me out. So all this could happen in 2028, the things I've just told you, or it could all be next year because all this stuff is moving so fast. Now, does anybody listen to this podcast? Dang, just me, huh? Anyway, I think they're pretty cool, and they talk about interesting things. And their topic evolution from the beginning of this year to the end of the year is interesting because at the beginning of the year, they talked about AI and retail media. And at the end of the year, and then in May, they talked about agentic AI. And I'm telling you, agentic is where we're going. But then in retail, they talked about LLMs as point of sale, which is called prompt to purchase. Now, I can't see any of y'all. How many of y'all know what prompt to purchase is? Okay, prompt to purchase, if you have Perplexity right now, Perplexity Pro, and you say, I want a pair of tennis shoes that, for somebody that really doesn't run all that much, and but they're white and they look cool, it'll go ahead and do the shopping for you, the prompt to shopping, and you can just order it there. So you're disintermediating Amazon and, in a sense, Walmart. This is going to be a big thing. Brick and mortar needs to prepare for prompt to purchase because somebody just said that was interesting. That made me so happy. Because brick to mortar can't algorithm LLMs. Y'all's competitive edge lies in humanity, physicality, and locality. All right, LLMs are growing so fast, and this brand new prompt to it's P2P. It's prompt to purchase. This really just started appearing in June. I saw some references to it in January, but this is as new as June, where you're not going to Amazon, you're not going to wherever, you're just going to Perplexity. OpenAI is going to start doing this and say, I want this. You know everything about me, because they build up context windows on you, right? When you deal with an AI, they go back in time and they know what you like, don't like, and they can order exactly what you want. They have your credit card. They can just go ahead and take care of the whole thing. That's going to be a threat. It threatens brick and mortar through loss of discovery traffic. In other words, window shopping in the stores, which means that stores need to be turned into possibly a little bit more special things than they are right now, more of destination things. It disintermediates brand relationships you might have with your customers maybe for everybody but Buc-ee's. Buc-ee's are a special breed. I'm not sure what the deal is. I've decided when you go in Buc-ee's, they spray something on you. I'm not sure what, it's probably deer lure, but they spray something on you and you just wind up walking out of there with like 180 bucks worth of stuff. It's quite odd. But disintermediation of brand relationship, and the response would be to reinforce y'all's human connection and brand storytelling in physical spaces, rather than just sitting in a computer like everybody does, staff expertise, service add-ons that emphasize identity and especially trust. Because guess what? I told y'all before, sometimes AI lies, and a brick and mortar prompts to purchase erodes impulse purchases in stores, which means that y'all, as designers and builders, it is possibly incumbent on y'all to build immersive layouts where impulse things happen through surprise experiences. You look forward to going there. Often refer to Walmart as the last third place. People used to go to church and school, and then their retail place of choice, which is what y'all are. That's where people gather, the last third place. And so if there's more reasons for people to go there, then that's awesome. So you want to focus on what AI and prompt to purchase cannot deliver efficiently. Multimodal, all I'm going to say about this, because I have 40 seconds left, is multimodal means it reads more than text. It reads pictures, it reads audio, it listens to people speaking. This is a grocery retail study, which I encourage y'all to go back and look at. I don't have time to look at it, but basically grocery is using multimodal AI to read, see, and listen things that shoppers are doing. This little kid, okay, I'm gonna go ahead and go 2 minutes over. Is that okay? Thank you. This little kid wrote this paper called Situational Awareness, and he worked at OpenAI, and they fired him, but on the strength of this paper, he got, it's now $2 billion to manage on the strength of the concepts in this paper. I encourage y'all all to read it. It's 165 pages long. Read pages 1 through 65, and it will fry your brain. Because what he's saying is he's showing how the evolution of the large language models, and like that's, you know, on the left, that's a dog a long time ago. LLM2 looked terrible. Now it looks a little bit better. I can't even read that. But at the time, it was amazing. But what's happening now is efficient compute, AI, is growing at orders of magnitude, right? So GPT-2 thought like a preschooler, GPT-3, elementary preschooler, GPT-4, a smart high schooler, and now we're going to things that can pass the bar exams pretty easily. It's getting faster, quicker. We don't know how quicker, but we sort of do, because from GPT-3 to GPT-4, it grew nearly 2 orders of magnitude, which I went to Georgia Tech, and we're not really well known for our strong math department there. So I had to re-look this up. And 2 orders of magnitude means it's 100x. It's 100 times more powerful. So it's like climbing a staircase to climbing an elevator. That's how fast things are growing. And things are growing at 0.6 orders of magnitude per year now, which means we can't hardly keep up. It started slow, but because the hardware is getting cheaper and the models are getting better, AI is getting insanely, and this is the relative inference of, this just means the models are getting smarter with less data having been given to them. But if you had, we think as humans in about 100 tokens per minute. A token is about 4 or 5 words. Essentially, if you have millions of tokens, which is what we're scaling up to, then in a few years, it will take what would take us multiple months, it would take a few minutes for AI to do. All right, things are speeding up, not just for you, but for your competitors. Here's the orders of magnitude again. They're growing faster and faster. They're getting logarithmic. And what it's doing, y'all have heard of Moore's Law, right? It's Moore's lawing Moore's Law, right? It's just taking it to another level. And this is the probable path up to 2030 of reaching superintelligence. So these things I've been telling you about before, I see you walking up here. You're not going to scare me off this stage. Yeah, I got the blue carpet under me. You can't come get me. What's interesting is the things that might slow it down are physical compute, just running out of tech power, and algorithmic processes don't improve as fast. But those are going to be made up by the agents that I talked of earlier, which will take these algorithmic processes and break them up into tasks and go faster and faster. And this is interesting. From back when we hunted in 2 million BC, the global economy took 230,000 years to get to farming. From farming to science and commerce, it took 860 years. From science to commerce, it took 58 years from 1730. And from industry to double the global economy took 15 years from 1903. When we have superintelligence like this, okay, our GDP in America is 2.5 right now. In this paper, when you read it, he posits that in 28 or 29, we could have a 25 to 30% GDP because we'll be that efficient. Things are going to grow that fast, that quickly. Like I said, I have to rewrite my speeches almost every week now. Imagine if the technological progress of the 20th century, this is him, not me, were compressed into less than a decade. So everything, we went from the Wright brothers to ICBMs within a century. And this is what he expects the 2030s to look like across science and technology. Things are about to get so crazy starting next year that it's going to blow everybody's mind. If y'all don't read Wait But Why, which you see down in the right corner, you should, it's great. But human progress is about to absolutely explode. Your industries are about to explode in ways that we can't figure out yet, right? Because we're just figuring out stuff that's going on now. So retail is at a crossroads with AI and time, automation like Walmart and time, and the future of stores is time. It's all about time. I've got 5 more slides. And so this intelligent explosion, unlike today's narrow AI, artificial general intelligence will possess human-level reasoning across all domains: medicine, retail, construction, everything, transforming every industry simultaneously. We're going from reactive to predictive retail because we're going to be able to assimilate things about you from so many different sources and make sense of them, all right? It's like my AI calculates. Last time I was here, I talked about how I gave my AI all my DNA, all my dietary habits, all my blood work, and it calculated the date of my death. And it was all that, which is like later on today, I think. But it calculated all those different pieces of data. It brought them all together and understood them. So the data, which used to be ununified and unrecognizable, like it would be word perfect over here and word over here, and ne'er the twain shall meet, now they can meet and do things. Autonomous store ecosystems, you're going to see autonomous stores that work by themselves based on the people that come in there, how they walk, where they walk, and it'll all be done at a store level. And the future isn't business to commerce, it's business to AI, where AI agents negotiate with other AI agents on behalf of consumers and retailers, compressing transaction times to milliseconds. Everything's all about time, and retailers who fail to adopt artificial general intelligence will face extinction because they'll be unable to compete with how fast everything is coming along, and it'll be more precise. So, yeah, in 1986, things just went slow, boring. Now, on the far right-hand side, it's basically the most exciting time in history. You have to be careful. AI does lie. George Stalk is right about time. Everything's about time. Read his book. And my speech was about where time and data intersect. And now it's time for y'all to go continue drinking. Thank you very much for your time.